This is the Redeemed podcast with Jake and Blake, and we have a special guest on today. His name is Taylor from TrueBondHemp.
All right, guys. Yeah, we got Taylor today here from TrueBondHemp. This is a local company to Ohio. Do you have any other spots outside of Ohio that you?
No, I'm just all online.
You're just all online, and you're local here only.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. What year did you start?
I got into cannabis in 2016. After having 2 brain surgeries in 2015, I tried, tried to play the doctor's game, try this medicine, but I kept having seizures. And
Those are fun.
I decided to look at different routes, and it was just weird, I had some people saying, hey, weed, smoke weed, CBD, I don't know what any of this stuff is. My dad was the sheriff of my hometown, so my mind was, and this is a drug, this can't help you. This doesn't do anything for you.
Right.
It can't help you in any way. But when you're put in a position where, it's your life, it's like, how am I going to get a better quality of life here? And it's like, you have neurologists. There's not enough neurologists, out here to fix everybody that has, mental brain problems or whatever. But they do their best, but it's like, it's your life, take, your health into your, it's your responsibility.
Right.
So, started doing research on CBD, and I tried it out. I took it in with me to have my EEG done, and I just took the label in because I was like scared to take it in. I was like, I don't know if this is illegal to take in or whatever. So I just peeled the label off and I took it in because I wanted to ask the doctor. And, this is a neurologist, and he saw it on the table and he snatched it before. And I was like, oh, I was going to ask you about that. And he was like, this is cool. And I was like, so I can take that? And he said, I would if I were you. Cool. That's all I needed to hear. And then from there, I did my own research because I think in a way I had something to prove to my dad. In a way, it's like, hey, there's actual medical benefits to this.
Yeah.
And it's like, I got to be the testimony for it.
Right.
It's like, I got to show you. If I can convince him, I can convince anybody.
Right.
It's like, and if you're going to like look at me and completely deny my story and like how it's helped me, or like even how it's helped Jake in ways, like you're in it for the money.
Yeah.
That's, that's just, it's that simple. So, but yeah, that's when I got into cannabis and started researching.
One more question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So we know what got you into this, but what got you into like the passion of helping other people with it? What sparked that up? Because originally this was all for you, because of the health stuff, but then you got into like helping so many other people. My mom, before I even really knew who you were, we were getting your product at a store, and I didn't even know it was made by you, but you make the CBD and stuff, and you genuinely help a lot of people with that. So what got you into that route?
When you have brain surgeries and back surgeries, and you have time to recover. Some people, they'll go home, they do what their doctors tell them, exactly what their doctors tell them, and then, they wait, to get written off or whatever. Me, I would go home and I'd educate myself. And I would do what the doctors, told me or whatever. But,
For the most part.
I would educate myself. And it's like, I got to put myself in a better position, It's like, this is a chess game now, This is, anytime my brain can just power down and just, who knows when it could be.
Right.
That's why I rely on these compounds to,
but
calm, all that stuff down. So.
And then you figured that other people could
yeah, and it's just, I have all this knowledge, why not share it? I see, I'm a small town boy at heart, my grandma was, in the flower shop, I grew up going to these, yard sales and these
such a
out
good old boy.
out at, Rainersville, Ohio, the Traders Day out there, I'm just a small town boy at heart, and it's just I worked for a place and I saw, what people were paying for these products, and I saw, how much it cost to make these products. I'm like, what? Like, there's people are getting ripped off, and it didn't sit well with me. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make stuff, and I'm gonna try and make it a little bit better. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I mean, there's times I'm out selling stuff, and people want educated, they want to hear, and I'll talk to them, and I'll talk to them, and then, yeah, that sounds cool, but, I might just wait, but it's like a CBN product, and I'll hand it to them. But take it. Here's my card. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. I said, why? Like, no, no. I know you're gonna get on my website. You're gonna order it. It's just that, I mean,
your website, by the way, just TrueBondHemp.
Yeah, TrueBondHemp. TrueBondHemp.com. TrueBondHemp. That's, or you can put in true and then -bond.com, and that'll direct you right to it too. It's the same thing. So
I'll display it even on the screen as well for people.
Yeah, just two different, whatever. But yeah. So yeah, it's like, you have all this knowledge. Like, what are you gonna do? Waste it, or just like hold on to it for yourself? Like, it's like, I've been in, a lot of bad situations. Like I said, brain surgeries, but we could go all the way back to
fun.
Yeah, right.
Had a few of those.
But yeah, you go back to, back when I was in third grade, that's when they diagnosed me with major depression. All right. I was on Zoloft. I've been on pills my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, you name it. I've been on Zoloft and all kinds of anti-anxiety drugs, bipolar meds. Lithium was one I was on for many, many years. And come to find out, it was a tumor that was in my head. Doctors just wanted to throw pills at me. They didn't want to look at my brain. So, and having brain surgery, also sparks, my curiosity for the brain and neuroscience and psychology and people and how we think and like why we act the way we do. And it's just, I'm a very curious person. That's what I was when I was a child. And that's what's weird when I was talking to my surgeon, that took the tumor out of my head. My mom was, how long was it there? And he said, he guessed that it was there my entire life. It grew as I grew. And through time, it put enough pressure on my right frontal lobe that it affected me. And I was an angry person. I was a fighter. I was a nutcase, but,
Me too.
but come to find out, being a bouncer, getting kicked in the face, after you take the guy to the ground, his buddy stand 5 feet away, blast you in the face, you get knocked out, my lips busted, and I just want to go to the hospital and get stitches. And then they scanned my head because I was knocked out. And then they scanned my head again. And it's just, we want to do an MRI. And I'm like, why? And they're like, there's something in your head that's not right. And I'm like, I could have told you that. And like, yeah.
It's called my brain.
And he's like, no, like, seriously. I was 25 years old. I didn't know what MRI was. Like, I tried to, me going to a doctor was a psychologist or, psychiatrist or, it's going to get a prescription refill, basically, that was me going to a doctor. So, but yeah, it's just a bunch of nonsense.
What does cannabis do in the body? How does it help people? Like, what part of the body is it that accepts breaks down and distributes the
just how it works in general.
compounds.
And, so everybody has what's called an endocannabinoid system, the ECS for short, right? You can Google it right now. It'll pop up. It's basically, essentially your reverse nervous system, and, we create these compounds in our bodies naturally. And, that's what, like runner's high. If you ever felt runner's high, it's cannabinoids, your endocannabinoid system's, it's stimulated. But, we take products, CBD, CBG, THC, THC being the psychoactive one. It stimulates the system. And when we take them, these cannabis goes in the body where it needs to go. So, me personally, I take a lot of, CBD oil, just throughout the day. I'm in that higher range of 200, 300 milligrams. Just when you get into serious neurological stuff, you're looking at higher levels. When you're looking at anxiety and stuff like that, I've seen guys much bigger than Jake, walk in and take 2 milligrams.
Calling me fat, bro?
You're a big guy, man. You're a big guy, but
he's a brick house.
But
can't sing. Sorry.
They take 2 milligrams and 15 minutes and talking to them, and they're like, I feel really calm. And it's like, it's that easy. 2 milligrams for a guy that's, 350 pounds, 6'5", like just a couple milligrams is all it takes. His anxiety's gone. It's just the endocannabinoid system. Something I like telling people a long time ago when, it was legal to grow hemp before they demonized it and, put a lot of propaganda out about it because it would literally put so many...
like reefer madness.
Yes,
stuff.
reefer madness. Yes, exactly. It would put so many industries out of whack, out of business, basically. You got the fibers of hemp, are 5 times stronger than steel. The fibers from the plant. The leaves have so many nutrients and vitamins and minerals in them. Like it's good to eat the leaves. It's just you make clothing with it. You can make, you can insulate your house with it. Like, so you don't need fire insurance. It would just disrupt too much, if this stuff was legal. But a long time ago, when farmers were growing it, well, it was, I was told it was by law. If
now,
you're growing
is this
so much
only hemp or
Well,
cannabis in general?
back then we're probably just saying hemp, probably. We got to get into the history of that, but that's for another time or whatever. That's another thing. But the cows were getting into the leaves and stuff. You're a farmer growing so much land, it was required to grow so much hemp. Okay. So the cows were coming over, the dairy cows were coming over and eating the leaves of the plant. And it's like animals, they eat stuff. They know what's real, try giving your dog a chicken nugget now and it doesn't eat it. Like it knows, right? The cow, it knew that it had something in it that was good for them. So they would eat these leaves, right? So we're getting, CBDA, THCA, CBCA. We're getting the acidic, cannabinoids here. And, it's binding to fats and, stuff, So when you ate, the cow, the red meat, you were getting cannabinoids. When you were drinking the milk, you were getting cannabinoids, So the whole thing about the drink a warm glass of milk before you go to sleep at night, it's not real anymore because hemp's out of the cow's diet. So what happens was you warm the milk up, the CBDA turns into CBD, the THCA turns into THC, and it removes the acidic molecule, so it activates it. That's why that's why people smoke it. you have to have heat to activate these compounds and these cannabinoids. So, what our ancestors did was they were taking an edible. That's what was happening. And that's why they were sleeping, so good on a warm glass of milk.
Now, what is the difference between hemp and cannabis?
One grows high CBDA, one grows high THCA.
Gotcha.
I mean, there's guys that get into genetics and stuff. I'm not a expert grower. I don't try to pretend to, know that I know about growing. There's guys that know so much more than I do when it comes to that part of it. But when it comes to the medicinal side of it,
right.
the medical, use of it, that's where, I come and play. Those guys are coming up to me, asking me questions, about, what this cannabinoid does, what this terpene does, stuff like that. So, and it's, and I'm at the same, I'm asking them, lights, temperature, humidity, I'm picking all their brains, to, one day grow some really good stuff. So,
which you have.
Yeah. Which, I mean, my products, I get, contact labs, get stuff in bulk, put it all together. It's a process, but, I'm just a one-man army that, and I just do it.
I couldn't, when I was first hearing your story, I couldn't believe that you did all of this just by yourself. Like, that's incredible work ethic.
And I'm considered a dumb kid too. Like, I was an IEP kid, right? Like, I'm considered one of the dumb ones or whatever. I was just in the smaller classrooms and stuff. And, I just didn't really, I don't know. School just wasn't, I couldn't sit there and have someone up there. That's why I was good at art.
Did you eat the crowns?
Well, no, I didn't. I didn't eat the crowns, but
I don't know, all that hesitation to answer the question. Like you thought about it for a second.
Yeah. No,
you really were like, crowns. Should I say that I did? No, I did.
No, I was gonna fire back with a joke. No, I don't know. I was good at art. I was the most artistic, voted most artistic in, my senior yearbook, whatever. But I don't know. I had a brain tumor in my head at the time too. So I don't know. When they took that out, it was like the art stuff kind of went away, and then I'm like replacing it with like knowledge and like useful information. And I still like look at the world, through different lenses and stuff. Cause my thing was photography, it's just, so I try and look at the world through, different lenses, different point of views, different perspectives. And, and even when I'm doing my research and stuff, I just, it's like making charts, it's like circle charts, the one that overlaps the other one. And it's like, all right, that's I'm getting
a Venn diagram. Right?
I'm seeing this one saying this one's saying this, and all of them are saying this. So, what's in the middle is, we're right on the money, right?
Now, when you were learning some of this stuff, I guess what was some of the beginning things that you were learning about this whole industry that really just kind of made you be like,
that's right.
Like this is what I like. I could be really good at this.
Yeah. So I was learning about the stuff. Where I was getting at was where I worked at the CBD dispensary in downtown Columbus that I no longer work at. The owner there, he wanted his staff to...
You can't work there and own your business?
Yeah. I just wanted to make that clear for people. But he wanted his staff to have the 12-hour medical comprehension course for his staff to, just to take or whatever. Cleveland School of Cannabis, they have, their main campus is in Cleveland, obviously in the name, but they do have a Columbus thing or whatever. But I just did it all online, and it was supposed to be 12 hours, but honestly it was like 45 minutes because it's like I've already researched this stuff. I've already looked into this stuff, whatever. Wow. But so it was just kind of
right.
So
Yeah.
you just whizzed through everything.
I just whizzed right through it. Yeah. It's like, I already know this. That basically, like,
Smart boy.
you know, it's like the videos are there, or whatever. It's like kind of like, okay, but it's like, I'm just going to take the test. And it's like, oh, I know this, I know this, I know this, I know this, I know this. If I didn't know something, you go back, you watch the video, you know, gather the information from it, you know, and move forward, you know, but it's just, most of it I already knew. So, and that was, you know, before I even started working there. I already, you know, knew all that. But I think that's why the owner was trying so hard to get me to work in there. But, you know, down there, they're very knowledgeable, and but that's where I come from. When it comes to let's understand it medically, and you know what it does in the body, how it does in the body, what, you know, cannabinoid does what, you know, which, you know, terpene does what, which, you know, you walk in with anxiety, you know, what am I going to give you? You walk in, you have knee pain, what am I going to give you? It just, you know, figuring all that stuff out, you know.
Ooh, I've got a good
to where
question.
like, you know, there's bud tenders that, you know, will give, you know, old 70-year-old Susan a 50 milligram edible because she's got anxiety. And, you know, I've had friends tell me, you know, it's happened, and they're like, you know, the ones that have to come up and talk and basically cleanup crew kind of type thing or whatever. Be like, yeah, we're so sorry, that should have never happened, you know, because, you know, why are you giving somebody a 50 milligram edible with, you know, anxiety? It's just not, you know, like I was just talking about, you know, a big guy took 2 milligrams of oil underneath his tongue, and 15 minutes he was just saying, I feel really calm.
I take about 3.5 milligrams of THC mixed with CBN, and CBD and a lot of other things that I get from my local dispensary. It's just that 3.5 milligrams, and it helps for hours.
Yeah.
And the reason I take it is for pain.
Yeah.
You know, I've broken my back a couple times. I have currently 2 bulging discs. I've had 5 or 6 now total. I have spinal stenosis. I have arthritis in my back.
Yeah.
And then I had the little knee incident happen where I broke my tibia plateau, and now I've got 6 screws and a plate that holds my knee into place.
Yeah.
So what is it? Because this is why I got into medical marijuana, was because I didn't even want the high. I wanted the relief, because I was in a state of my life for years where I was just a miserable person. And then when I started using medical marijuana, a lot of people thought that all of a sudden I was just, you know, up on cloud nine, and that's why my personality had changed and got more relaxed. But no, it was actually because I wasn't feeling all that pain all the time throughout the day. And Jake, you know, you get his product to help with the pain and other things. So do you know exactly maybe why the medical marijuana products help so much with pain? Why is that? Like, what happens there in the body that makes you not feel that pain there? Does it bind to a certain receptor? And if so, which one?
Yeah, it's the endocannabinoid system. It's, you know, you have the CB1 receptor and your CB2 receptor. Your CB1 receptor is, you know, it's oil, it's smoking, you know, it's hitting your spine and your brain, you know, your central nervous system. You know, your CB2 receptors, you know, it's kind of outside of there. So it's like, that's where it's like, you know, kind of capsules, gummies. A lot of people just need some, you know, their mind at ease. That's all they need, you know, and it's, for a lot of people, it's Tylenol, or it's, you know, Xanax, or it's, you know, something where it's like, you can microdose THC, you know, I got, you know, tinctures at 2.5 milligrams. I got different terpenes that have different effects, you know, and it's like, you know, how do you want to feel? You know?
See, that's the thing. I started using medical marijuana products because I was using Tylenol, extra strength Tylenol, like it was candy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's going to wreak havoc on you,
right?
You know, through time. It's like this is something that's natural.
Between that and ibuprofen, I actually saw this morning. I have an empty bottle of ibuprofen that I still need to throw away. It was 1,000 tablets of extra strength ibuprofen, and it's empty now. So I have taken at least 1,000 tablets of ibuprofen, and I'm sure that has played a heck of a role on my body.
They're anti-inflammatories, and you know what cannabis is? You know what the cannabinoids? They're anti-inflammatories. You know, CBG being one of them. You know, everything starts out as CBG, and then as cannabinoids, the birth of them, they call CBG, you know, the mother of all cannabinoids, because that's what everything starts out as, and then it will convert into THCA or CB, you know, DA, and you know, CBG helps with pain so much. I take, you know, 50, 100 milligrams of it a day, and just to help with back pain, leg pain, you know, feet pain, you know, just from the car accident I was in. And it's just like, this is actually helped me a lot since like I've, you know, really started consistently taking it. You know, it just dials down the pain, and it's like you're able to be open to more things. You know, where I say people need their mind at ease because you're dialing down that pain.
When you're in pain, you don't feel like doing anything. It makes you a miserable person.
Yeah. You're angry. You're not fun to be around, like, because you're bitching and crying about everything because you're in pain. It's like a cook in the kitchen, you know. Those guys, you know, or girls are back there cooking. It's hot, right? And the servers come out and, you know, they make some minor mistake and they turn around, they scream and yell at them, whatever. And then, you know, you get them out talking at the bar or whatever, and it's fine. They're all chatting normal. And I was just working in restaurants, and I told the girls, like, it's hot back there. You got to understand, like, you know, hot weather, you know, hot temperatures, it aggravates people. You know, when summer starts, shootings go up. You're like, it agitates people, the heat, you know, but when you get them out of the heat and then everything's cool and calm, it's just a nice, easy conversation.
Yeah, it's very interesting how us humans work. And I guess I never even noticed what you just said about the heat. Really, it does agitate everybody.
Yeah.
Like, because sometimes I feel like it's just me, but that's because I have hidradenitis, and I don't know if you know what that is.
No.
But it's a immune system thing. And basically what happens is they didn't know much about it back then, but we know now that if you get like a bunch of sugar and stuff that you shouldn't be having in your body, like especially the non-natural sugars, it can cause your sweat glands to like inflame so bad that they will swell up and burst through your skin. So that's another reason that, you know, I take the products that I do is to hopefully put, you know, that tension lowers in my body, and I don't get as much of a inflammatory response if I do eat something with sugar in it, because you can't avoid it completely. That's what I've learned. I tried to avoid sugar completely. It's even in my supplements that I take.
It's the refined sugars, the, you know, added natural sugar isn't necessarily bad. You know, it's if you chew it, if you're the one that makes it sugar, because people, I mean, sugar needs to be broken down by your saliva and stuff. I mean, when you're putting it in a blender, you're letting the blender be the teeth and break it down, and it's just turning into concentrated sugar. It's just flavored sugar at that point. It's like, I don't know, but we go into, you know, certain kinds of coffee and stuff like that. I'm just not into that stuff. It's not me. But yeah, people, I love drinking this like this.
You're at Starbucks every morning.
Yeah, no, never. My mindset with diet sometimes is, being epileptic, I try and eat as much meat as possible. and try and stay away from, carbs that can turn into sugars or anything like that. But no, like something to tell everybody is like, you know, let's imagine we're in the year 1900, and did they eat a lot of it? Eat a lot of it. Did they eat some of it? Eat some of it. Did they not eat it at all? Which is most of the grocery store today. Don't eat it. And it's like, it's that simple. Most people are sick because their diets. I mean, it's just, I mean, there's poison in the food. I mean, just saying that out loud is controversial or whatever, but it's true.
It is
saying
true.
almost anything out loud is controversial.
It's like, it's like you got the world at your fingertips. Like there's no excuse to, be ignorant in something. I mean, and crossing by with somebody, that knows something more about you or whatever. Be a student sometimes,
No, I mean,
That's
everything you're saying is really good. And like a lot of people, they don't know. I mean, I've been studying marijuana for years, but I don't even know a fraction of what you know. So I like hearing everything you have to say because I'm learning so much just by listening to you.
And there's people out there that know way more than I do.
Firsthand studies.
Yeah, I would sit there and actively research like all these different terpenes and different things like that. But my brain is good with music.
Yeah,
I absorb that.
Yeah, that's your thing. Yeah,
that's my thing.
Yeah.
Your thing is this.
Yeah.
And just I feel like it goes beyond that because the first time I ever talked to you, I can tell that your knowledge base on things in general is just like you study a lot.
Yeah, it's never ending. It's what keeps my brain going. I don't know if it's like a thing to like from like trauma from like seizures and stuff or whatever. Because like having one of those is like your brain just starts powering down like a computer, just very slowly. Just you just start to feel really dumb, and then me, I start, I'll start walking in circles to the left, or I'll just start jerking, to the left, and
like your body, like actually.
Oh yeah, a full body.
It'll just like sort of do like a twitch or something.
Oh, not just a twitch. It's a full body. It's scary. People don't know what to do, but it's like, hey, anybody that has epilepsy, you ever see somebody that has a seizure, get them on the ground, get them on their side, put a pillow, a hoodie, something under their head so they're not beating them. Don't try and hold them because they will outmuscle you. And look at the clock. If it's longer than, a certain amount of time, that's when you call 911. But I would say some of that is also depending on the person's condition. So if it's somebody, kind of like me, it's kind of rules for me. But
forgive me, I'm a little bit ignorant on this topic as well. Is there certain types of epilepsy?
Yeah, there's all different kinds of seizures. Yeah, people... you have grand mal seizures and all different kinds. You have people that'll just they'll just stare off for a second and then they'll just kind of snap back into it.
I have had a few seizures since my stroke. So I'm on anti-seizure medication and they try to take me off it a couple times. And when they do, I tend to have a seizure. Of course.
And that's where the cannabinoid CBDV is the best anticonvulsant cannabinoid we know of today. You all can go look it up. There's lots of stuff on it. I've read it all. You can read it. It's there, but it also helps with kids on the spectrum, even adults on the spectrum.
Yeah.
ADHD, neurological, things. So, but even like on the spectrum stuff, it's, you try a heavy metal detox. Because it seems to be a trend where, you got nonverbal kids do some heavy metal detox and they start talking.
Right.
that's a controversial topic. I don't know if that should go in there, but
I don't even know what a heavy metal detox is. So.
Yeah. It's just detoxing your body from all the heavy metals that it gets. I mean, there's forever chemicals. There's all kinds of things that you can be cautious and aware of. I mean, it's no state of consciousness to be in, you know, but there's so many things out there that are slowly poisoning people, basically.
For the audience watching, forever chemicals is something that I only just learned about within like the past maybe 6 months, and I don't think a lot of people know about them. So I encourage anyone who's watching this to definitely go look up forever chemicals and do your research on them, because once I did, it changed my whole perception on everything I ever put in my body.
Yeah. Your body's a temple.
I'll have to look at that myself.
You know, that's why I drink water, you know. I get it out of glass. I go, I haven't been for some time, but I have a whole bunch of, when I drank kombucha, I'd save all the big jugs and I'd take them all down to Hocking Hills in the spring. They'd come out of the side of the hill and fill them all up and haul back, 20, 30 gallons. That's what I would drink.
He is the hippie that he looks like.
No, there's nothing more.
We're going to start seeing him with braids in his hair and shit.
No, seriously though, like, go get your own water sometime. Like, go try it out and drink it as you're gathering it. Like, you'll never feel more alive. It's just because it's like it's living water. It's like the stuff that's in the plastic bottles. It's like it's dead, Yeah. It's like, go get it. It's come off, the rocks and it's in the streams and it's getting all the minerals.
And this isn't just like any stream, right? Like, you don't like, is this like, okay, I have like a stream back there.
Yeah.
But like it's got stuff flowing in from it from other sources that might not be good.
Yeah.
Would this be like up in like a hill stream? Like in a mountain?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. I mean, you go through some windy roads to get there, basically.
Okay,
but yeah, I think it's even on. It's a hidden gem, but it's on Google Maps now.
Because a lot of people, they do think that you can't, like, any water from any stream, you just can't drink it now.
Yeah,
like, it's undrinkable.
Okay,
period.
Well, let's where's your bottled water come from?
Very true. I never even thought about that until you mentioned that.
Look it up.
But it's not like they're just collecting it from nowhere and giving it to us. It's got to come from a source, and not all of it's from the Fiji. It's they've got to be getting it from somewhere. And then
be just a random creek somewhere.
Yeah, and
then just because they slap it in a plastic bottle that's got, groovy waves on it and they put a label on it, now it's professional. It's
got Jake looking at his water bottle. I mean, yeah, and I mean, here I'm where we're at currently. We're out in the country. I have a well, and I get the well water, but we purify it using a Berkey. And I don't know if a lot of people know what a Berkey is, but you put it in it and it has these, you put the water in it, it has these filters, and it filtrates out basically 99% of all the bad stuff that could be in your water.
And fluoride.
Yeah. Yes.
Fluoride being one of them. Yeah. Fluoride's been, it's proven to lower your IQ.
Yeah. Actually my girlfriend, she saw me using toothpaste with fluoride the other day, and she was like, no, use this toothpaste. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Because fluoride it's not good.
Yeah, it calcify your pineal gland.
Yeah.
In the brain. And you want to know what the pineal gland in the brain is,
Oh man, that's a whole topic that we could go a whole 12 hours about.
I'm here to talk about the benefits of medical cannabis.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a whole topic for like a whole nother day, but I love that topic, and we could definitely get into that sometime. I guess another thing about the cannabis, when it comes to like the the terpenes and stuff
Yeah.
are mostly every single one of those terpenes that we see useful for something in some sort of way, or are some of them just terpenes? Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, are some of them just kind of useless, or do all of them have medical benefits?
Yeah, they all
to
have
them?
their own purpose. I mean, but I think the real question is like, what is a terpene? You know, what is a terpene? A terpene is basically an essential oil that grows naturally on the cannabis plant. You know, works very similar to essential oil, how essential oils work, how aromatherapy works. But that's why we have, you know, different strain names. You know, this is called, you know, Bubba Kush, this is strawberry cough, this is, you know, they have a different terpene profile. That's why this one makes you feel this way, this one makes you feel that way, you know. So we have, you know, indica and sativa, even though it's a controversial, but
that's what
you know,
I was about to
everything,
ask.
you know, today everything's been crossed with everything, you know, at this point. It's like everything's a hybrid, you know. It's learn the terpenes and then you'll, you know, learn the benefits, you know, behind it. It's like, well, I don't like having, you know, couch lock or body relaxing. Is that the best one for you? It's like, then do it. Like, you know, you can treat it like any other medicine that says, you know, don't operate heavy machinery or do this or do that until you know how this medicine affects you, right? You treat it like that. It's medicine.
You play it by ear.
Yeah.
It's up to you to control your own intake and needs from it.
Yeah. It's your dose. What is your dose? You know, how much do you need? Are you able to function on how much you need? Okay, cool. You know, I mean, CBD, just taking CBD, people that are afraid of THC or, you know, whatever. It's like,
just like opioids. You know, I mean, nobody is going to go take 5 Percocets and go to work and act like nothing's wrong. But you get my point.
Oh yeah, just dosage.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all about
if you
your control. If you overdose yourself, you're going to pay the price for that, obviously.
Everything's poison when you take too much of it.
Yeah.
Everything.
It's all
even
in moderation.
Water. You know, you can drown yourself if you want.
Yeah.
If you drink too much water and you don't, you know, pee or, you know. So it's like everything is poison and too much. It's just being aware and limiting certain things. But back to, you know, people that just want to take CBD, you know, because they're scared, you know, of a drug test or whatever. But, you know, to be clear, you know, anybody tells you, you know, I'm going to fail a drug test or whatever, well, I've seen it happen. I've seen it not happen. I've seen it, you know, come from people that probably were smoking, you know, and just said, I've been taking CBD, but there's no guarantee. Sometimes, you know, the test sees, you know, the CBD and, you know, the other minor cannabinoids, whatever. And they go, oh, yeah, that's pot. That's Delta 9 THC. And that's how it hits. It's a false positive. But yeah, small doses, you start small and then you work your way up, you know. Higher doses at nighttime if you're using it for sleep, but I would recommend CBN for that.
That's what I use.
Because it's CBN in smaller doses is great for depression. It's great for pain.
I've noticed that as well.
But higher doses where, you know, it's sedative. And what CBN is it's old THC. That's what it is. It's old THC. There's no THC
I have
in it.
read some about that. That's why the old brick Mexican marijuana so like sedative. It'll like put you to sleep. I forget what they say about it. But yeah, it'll like knock you out because it just sat for so long in a brick, and that's when it starts turning into CBN after, what is it, like just time,
humidity, oxygen, lots of variables come in. But I mean, it's just old. It's old THC. That's what it is. It's not THC. It's old THC. It's kind of weird to think about, but you know, to get on back topic of, you know, terpenes and stuff. You know, I have an oil. You know, it has 1 ounce, 500 milligrams of CBN with linalool terpenes. Oh, it's
Sorry, what was that again? What was the terpene called?
linalool. Linalool can come from like lavender. That's kind of the taste it has as well. So it gives you a calming, relaxing effect. Some say possibly even sedating, That's where, I talk about terpenes. It's like essential oils, Me and essential oil ladies, we can talk and talk and talk. And it's just like, we're
That's like
talking.
my mom,
It's
you
like, we're
know?
talking about the same thing here. It's just like, add the cannabinoids now, add, it's,
Bet you
and
would have
that's what this plan is. And what these cannabinoids are doing in the body is this, like, you already understand the essential oils, so you understand terpenes, so it's
that's what, when you were talking about terpenes being essential oils, that kind of blew my mind, because I'm not like an essential oil fanatic, but I use a lot of essential oils. And when there's a company called doTERRA, my aunt goes nuts for doTERRA. My mom goes nuts.
I use them in my products.
I've got it
my
downstairs, and there I probably have over 100 different essential oils.
Your cousin got my ex into doTERRA. Not my most recent.
I use frankincense, myrrh, and cinnamon bark.
I love using frankincense.
It heals on a cellular level.
That's what I use the frankincense for. I'll use that and lavender. But that it's just very interesting to me. And like, once you find out some of this stuff, it's kind of mind blowing. Because we've only been fed as much as they want us to know about weed. And medical marijuana. But then when you have a talk with somebody like you, or do some independent research, and you start figuring out all this different stuff, it's mind-blowing how deep that rabbit hole goes.
Just like, understand, the United States is a young country. Other countries have some of this medical stuff figured out already. Now I'm not saying all of our medicine is bad or whatever, but
they're not all right.
It's if some of these countries haven't figured out already, just using certain herbs and supplements, why aren't we just following suit?
Right.
We're experimenting. I know this is very controversial, but that's what we're doing. So
it's where the dry herb vaporizing comes into play, like how Canada and other countries are using it in the hospitals for medical use.
Really?
Yeah. So
the
volcano.
The volcano, the
Stores
mighty.
and Bagel has like a whole medical line.
They have certificates that are, it's a medical device. I've actually gotten a prosecutor to purchase one because I told him what it does. Like, you don't have to, vaporize cannabis out of it. You can just put lavender in it if you wanted to. You would just vaporize the linalool, and you would be calm.
Right.
I've always wondered if, why lavender makes you calm. Taking a lavender bath that makes you calm. Using a one of those ones that puts it up into the air. What's that called?
The diffusers.
A diffuser. You put it in the diffuser, and it helps calm you down. And also, there's healing properties within lavender.
It's. As soon as you inhale it, it turns something on in the brain, right? Where it's just like, calm, relax. An example everybody could, I think, kind of figure this out is powerlifters doing salts.
Oh,
what's that doing to them to make them tense up and want to lift something?
Yeah.
All right. Now, essential oils BS or salts BS? Clearly no. So it's turning something on in the brain when you gather that scent.
It's also interesting. And do you think, do you know if all 50 states have, because I know Ohio, we were kind of late to this game of being able to have marijuana in dispensaries and stuff like that. And now they're just getting to the point where the dispensaries are catching up somewhat to like Los Angeles and other places.
Well, the thing a lot of people overlook is the 2018 Farm Bill. You know, that made products legal up to 0.3% of THC, Delta 9 THC by dry weight.
Could you explain that a little bit?
So if I have a piece of candy and I need it to be 0.3%, you know, THC, I'm going to do the math. I got to figure out how much the gummy weighs or how much the, you know, the cube weighs, whatever it is, the edible weighs. And then I got to find out what 0.3% is of that weight, of the dry weight. So if it's, I believe it's like 3.5 grams, you can have up to 10 milligrams of THC per piece of candy through the Farm Bill. And that's, you know, and if the THC is extracted from hemp as well, you know, because hemp does grow small amounts of THC, you know, and then THCA, obviously, but, you know, through extraction, they just convert it to Delta 9 THC. It's the same thing with, you know, my microdose oils. You know, it's just, you know, 2.5 milligrams a milliliter, 75 milligrams per 1 ounce is what I'm allowed to put in there. So that's all that's in there with terpenes. So terpenes, there's no law on or anything like that. That's like selling essential oils, though. But it's the cannabinoids they cared about in the Farm Bill. So, but everyone's just overlooked it, and it's like, yeah, like this has been legal, but you know, we got all these cannabis activists going, you know, we want just, and I just like, it's here, but then we voted on home grow. You know, I can get behind that. I agree with that, and they got it, but now they're trying to change everything, you know, in Ohio.
Yeah.
So, you know, but you know, when you understand these, you know, cannabinoids, and then look at the law and kind of go, this isn't THC, this is THCA. Well, when they take it home and what they do with it is none of my business, you know, just like how everything should be, you know?
Yeah.
So I was like, did I sell you something that was THC? No. I sold you THCA because that's what it is. Right. And that's what people overlook. You go in the dispensaries, your flower is THCA. It's not Delta 9 THC until you light it on fire or you heat it up. That's why you heat it up to make your edibles too. You have to activate the THC in it.
It activates at 220.
Yeah, it's around there. Yeah, 215, 230. I think that's the temperature for like the oven or whatever. But for decarboxylation.
What was that word again?
Decarb.
Yeah.
Decarboxylation. So yeah, that's just, I think I might have said it earlier, but that's when that THCA and CBDA, that acidic molecule is removed with heat and turns it into CBD and THC. And I said it with the cow story or whatever.
Right. So, okay. So obviously, you know, medical marijuana or just marijuana in general helps out so many people. And there's so many healing properties to it. You told me a story a while back when I first met you about a guy who had throat cancer. You met this guy, and I believe from what you told me, you gave him a product that he could inhale, and it would go, you know, down past the throat and into the lungs, and
it was a topical.
Out. It was topical.
It was topical.
What happened? Could you tell everyone what happened?
So
with
it was a
this
buddy of mine. He reached out and he said, "Hey, my dad just got diagnosed with throat cancer that's in the dermis." So so it's like, is smoking the right option? I don't think so. You know, I think that's agitating because I think he already had some scar tissue there as well. I came up with this formula basically that will push everything into the bloodstream topically. You know, the topicals that are on the market, you know, they may have THC in them, but unless they're, transdermal, then they're not going to enter the bloodstream and you're not going to get high. THC topicals are great, if, it's something that scares you though, it's not going to enter your system though, unless it's, transdermal. But that's what I used. I used something called DMSO. And what that does is when you put it on your skin, whatever is on your skin is going to go into your bloodstream. So I mix CBD, CBG, THC, frankincense, myrrh. I think I just did it in like an MCT coconut oil for him. And I gave him just a whole bunch of organic cotton balls. And I told him, I said, now you need to make sure that your throat and everything is clean before you put this on. So, we put it on, and then with DMSO, you'll get a taste of like garlic or peanut butter. It's just what that stuff does, whatever, but it's working. So, but he did that, and he did about, I made him 16 ounces of it. He went through, I think, both of them, but my buddy called me and he said, yeah, cancer's gone. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, how did that meeting go? And he was talking about, doctor said, I've never seen cancer go away like this. That's the story of that.
I just think that's incredible. And I mean, I'm sure there's different ways to treat different cancers. Obviously, my mom has cancer. I saw you talking to her down there before we started the podcast. And I was even asking you questions earlier when we were out. We all got breakfast, and I was asking you what would be the best way for her with her type of cancer to ingest. So obviously there's different ways for different people with cancer that they can potentially get healed.
Yeah. And it's like, if it's something that it's like, wait a minute, it's right there. Like we can get there through the skin right there. Let's do it. Right. Like let's put it on our bodies, and let's target, where it goes on our body. I make topicals for a chiropractor's office in town. I really started doing it because I just put CBD, CBG in there. So it's like you're guaranteed, you're not going to fail a drug test, because it's not going to enter the bloodstream, but it opens the door to using cannabis. If I can get it on your skin and it helps you with pain, then I can, that door that opens for that conversation of, them thinking, oh, if I put it on, my elbow that hurts, my knee hurts, and I put it on there and it helps there, I wonder if it would help with the stress that I've been having. Right. So now we've opened that door for ingestion now. So now we just talk about CBD and CBG, the non-psychoactive stuff, and then they start taking it. And then now they're believers because they've taken it and they've used it.
Correct. Kind of like how me and Jake had to go through that. You went through that process.
Yeah. So it's just like, I'm trying to get them, I'm trying to go back to, how I thought about it and, how I would,
sell yourself
would educate people on it, sell it to them, all of that. So
yeah, I don't know, that story it's really cool to hear that. Cause I've heard stories about cancer getting cured by this certain thing or that certain thing. But then when I hear stories like that, I'm like, okay, now I know that I'm not going crazy when I tell people that THC or just,
THC is a cancer killer.
Yeah, it's a cancer killer.
Yeah. No, I mean, Rick Simpson said it himself. I mean, do I
like marijuana, Jesus?
Do I think that it's the only supplement you should take if you have cancer? No. I think you should take, a lot more supplements.
Do you believe that you should keep up with chemo and radiation and stuff?
I'm not a fan of chemo.
Not a fan of chemo.
No, I mean, what happens? So you fix it for 6 months and it comes back and your immune system shot?
That seems to be what goes on.
Is that the pattern?
I know who take the chemo,
and then, but it's a 6 month fix. It's, it's like, no, this is a lifestyle change. This is what I had to do. This is a lifestyle change. This is, was a bouncer in the bars, partying at the bars and, doing this and doing this and doing this to like, I can't do that stuff anymore. Can't go out and drink and get drunk and, wasted every night, whatever. That was, that's early 20s, nonsense.
Getting old for all that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I saw something the other day, how alcohol, this generation like has been like rejecting it like completely. So I'm like,
I don't drink at all.
Yeah.
I had a Mike's Hard Lemonade like I think about 6 or 7 years ago,
Yeah.
and it made me really hot and sweaty.
Yeah.
It was in the middle of the summertime too,
Yeah.
and I'm like I'm good on alcohol.
Yeah.
And I'd never been much of a drinker,
Yeah.
but now I just stay away from it.
Yeah.
I won't drink, and I probably won't for the rest of my life.
I'd rather drink my weed.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. I like,
Mhm.
what I like doing is putting, the stuff that's in tinctures sometimes in a drink.
Yeah. I have,
And it's an oil, so sometimes it doesn't mix well.
Yeah.
But there's ways.
Yeah. I have some water soluble syrup that you can mix in anything. Any drink of your choice. You just like, if you want 7 milligrams of THC, you just fill a cap full of it, pour it in your drink, swirl it around, drink it. You got 7 milligrams of THC, and it's nano THC. So when you eat a gummy, right, or you eat an edible, the liver breaks it down and turns it into 11-hydroxy metabolite. And that's,
Sorry, what was that again?
11-hydroxy metabolite. It's like, I don't know, arguably, 3 to 10 times more psychoactive than THC, but that's what it does. That's why people have bad experiences with edibles. That's why, it's like start, with a lot of people do great 5 milligrams starting point. If you want to cut it in half, do it. You can always go up, but wait 2 hours, right? But when you drink it and it's nano THC, it'll bypass the liver. So it won't break down into 11-hydroxy. It'll just stay in the bloodstream. So it's a different high, and it lasts longer, and it's quicker. It kicks in much quicker. So that's, the eating it to drinking it, if it's nano THC. So
what is the quickest way to resolve pain issues?
Yeah, everybody's different. They say I worked at that CBD dispensary. Everybody's got a different story. Everybody's got different, you'll have 20 people a day that have pain. It'll all be different places, all be whatever. If it's something that we can target, we can put it where the pain is. We just put a topical on it. And people are like, that's that easy? Yeah, it's that easy. Put the topical on there.
It would take a lot of topical for me.
No.
I mean,
Well,
You got a shampoo that would cover it?
that's where easing the mind comes in. That's where that doses of THC. That's just kind of relaxing your body.
when it comes to this, are there any strains in particular that you just don't like? And are there any strains in particular that you're a huge fan of that you're like, this is a like lifetime go-to?
It's for me personally.
Yeah.
For me personally, I respond better with fruity terpenes, like berry, blueberry, stuff like that. I don't do well with citrus stuff.
I don't think I ever have either.
Yeah,
so.
Some citrus stuff can be, that more head high.
Yeah.
And I don't prefer it, just simply because, having epilepsy, before a seizure happens, your brain does some weird things, and when you are consuming, high percentage THC with, some of those citrus terpenes that are just, the brain is just going and going and going. It's a little too much for me. So I just like the body relax. And
so I take it you're more of an indica person then.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm an indica person. I have not had a sativa in at least 5 years.
Yeah.
At least that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like for me, I have anxiety, like really bad.
Yeah.
And the last thing that I need is to consume some sort of sativa and get the wheels in my brain, just turning and turning. Because once those wheels start, they don't stop. They just speed up. And if it's a sativa, it's only going to get worse.
Yeah. That's, you asked me if certain terpene I really didn't like, and as an isolated terpene or whatever, apinine is a terpene. Pine, I've been told that it triggers PTSD, so it's not a good one. Something with apinine isn't a good strain for, ex-military or something like that. So that's what it's like. Oh, okay. I'll stay away from that one too.
Yeah, right. That's why I was against weed for so long, because it actually made me super paranoid, and I hated that. And my brain already runs 1,000,000 miles a minute. I don't need help with that. And weed always affected me in that way. It would just keep my brain spinning faster. And I don't need that. That's why I hated it. So, but for some reason, after the stroke, it doesn't affect me the same.
You need small amounts of CBN with some CBG, THC. You need some CBDV too. That's what, I can kind of see where, if the government stays out of it, I guess, if medical cannabis can go, is, it's really sitting down with somebody and understanding these cannabinoids and having them isolated and just talking to people, asking them questions, what kind of pain they're in, what they do for work, day-to-day stuff, and coming up with a formula with certain cannabinoids, certain terpenes, that's a certain dose that's for you, you know? That's where
individualized.
Yeah, that's where I would,
dosing.
I'd love to see it go to, but I understand that's also a lot of work and, lots of one-on-ones, but if
and the likelihood of the government staying out of anything is slim to none.
And that's what they're trying to get rid of my business right now. They're trying to get rid of the farm bill that I was talking about that made cannabis legal. You just had to understand the weights and, all that stuff. The 0.3% by dry weight. So what they're trying to do now is eliminate that, and that would put me out of business. And then you'd only be able to get it inside of, the medical dispensaries and the recreational dispensaries. And they're talking about raising the tax to like 15 or 20%.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And so that's the thing is, the products I sell, by definition are dietary supplements. So they can't get that. They can't put that extra tax on it. So it's clear that they just want the money. They want control and the money.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
You're right.
It's like my entire life, it was, this is bad. Like, even my uncle was in second grade was my dare officer. Like I just, I saw him this past Thanksgiving, and I said, in second grade, you're my dare officer. And I said, you didn't teach us about the endocannabinoid system. And he was just like, hey, I don't want to hear it. It's like, he knew he was going to lose the argument. So, but yeah, it was interesting.
Wow. Yeah, I do think that's interesting that you come from an environment where it was so heavily preached against, and then you still go against the grain.
It was uncomfortable at the first. It was very uncomfortable.
Oh, I bet.
But I was in a situation where I was 3 months out of having an EEG done, to where they were hooking up all the wires to my head, and so then they were going to induce a seizure. I was 3 months out of that, and I had a seizure, and it scared the living shit out of me. And all I went was from my bed to the couch upstairs, and then just walking to the bathroom just gave me the worst panic attack ever. And those were the only spots I went throughout the house for 3 months, because it just freaked me out. So I finally went and had the EEG done, and they figured out, it's where they took the tumor out of my head, scar tissue, and got me on the right doses of, some of their medications that I still take. But, which is why I can't, complain too much about Big Pharma. I have a lot to complain about, but
I mean, they're messed up, but some of their medications are good things. It's just, to me, it feels like the scale of like good and bad is just not even there, and the bad heavily outweighs the good. But I can't, I'm the same way. I can't completely hate on Big Pharma, because some of the medications that I have to take, like one of them being gabapentin, I have a back injury that's so severe that if it weren't for gabapentin, I would have running or restless leg syndrome all the time, and it would never stop. And when I don't take that gabapentin, it's game over, buddy.
Yeah.
Game over.
Yeah.
My legs are gonna, and I can't get them to stop. So there are certain things, but I don't know. I feel like the bad outweighs the good there.
Definitely.
It all comes down to better quality of life. And I think, Big Pharma is a lot of Band-Aids. You're buying a lot of boxes of Band-Aids when there's got to be something out there for you that's, not necessarily made in a lab. Oh, something
Big
natural.
Pharma's just kicking a
natural.
can down the road. You're just putting off the inevitable crap. You're just giving yourself 10 more minutes to not deal with whatever it is. But then they're just going to add on another medication to deal with the next thing.
I've had that happen.
It's called stacking. Stack medication.
I mean, I am on a lot. I take, I forget, 26 pills a day, I think.
Is that 26 different ones or just 26 total?
26 total.
Okay.
I don't know how many different medications I'm on. That's a lot.
But your situation is valid, though, for why you would have to take that. I mean,
some of them.
You had a stroke. You were in a coma for 9 months, and you have half of your brain that's pretty much inactive, which the other half of your body is now almost completely inactive. I mean, you're getting some life changes that are happening that are going to, be helping with that, but it doesn't change the fact that you do need some of those medications to help with this stuff, or else you would be in a bad spot.
Some of them, yeah. My heart medications definitely, like my water pill definitely helps tremendously. Like if I ever get short of breath, I can feel when water is building up. It builds up around my lungs, around my heart too.
So you have water retention.
Yeah.
Oof.
I have congestive heart failure. I got diagnosed with that exactly 1 year to the day before my stroke.
So you should just be taking oil and gummies.
Is him vaporizing the oil just as good as orally taking it?
There's a lot of controversy around this subject. Either way you do it, you're agitating your lungs. That's the argument, and you are, and any cardiovascular doctor, they go around and what's one thing you would never do for heart health? And all of them seem to say, I would never vape. Now,
honestly, I honestly think all the doctors tie vaping to nicotine in general.
Yeah, and that's where it's like they're not specific about what it is.
What to vape.
What are we vaping?
It's just vaping.
But when you compare them, we're looking at nicotine, which nicotine has benefits for you, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of benefits. If it's good nicotine, I saw that they were just talking about lowering the nicotine levels in cigarettes. So you'd have to consume more to get the nicotine.
Of course.
But, yeah.
Yeah. So you get more of the bad stuff.
Yeah.
Here's more carcinogens to get nicotine.
Yeah, they have a good argument with it's agitating the lungs. Now using something like the Mighty or Volcano,
that
can
which
help.
Vaporizes the marijuana, right?
Yeah, vaporizes it. It does not turn it into smoke, so there's no combustion.
Okay.
Necessarily, or no fire. It's like having a miniature oven that just heats it up to the temperature that it needs to be to release the cannabinoids. Kind of like water boiling. Water is 212 degrees, takes to boil. Each cannabinoid has its own temperature that it's going to be released. So that's the dry herb vaporizers. When you get into the oil, the rosins, the resins, the distillates,
There's so much of it.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming for, somebody that's just walking into, a dispensary for the first time. Or even just getting on my website.
That's with my girlfriend. I had no idea, but a couple weeks ago, we went to a dispensary. Well, she did for the first time. I took her.
Mm-hmm.
I went inside with her and walked her through the experience because, she had never been to one before.
Yeah.
And, she uses medical grade marijuana, but it's not, she's never been to a dispensary. And she was having trouble getting more of her stuff. And so I said, well, let's go to a dispensary. And she was like, I don't want to. And I'm like, well, why? And she's like, because all of it is just, so overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, I'll walk you through it. It's fine. And so we looked at our menu at the menu of this place and we picked out a product and she went and got it. And, it was fine, but it really can be very overwhelming. I've noticed, especially with the older crowd, they get so overwhelmed that they don't even want to give the product or just the thing in general, which is the medical marijuana, a chance because there's this factor and that factor and well, what about this then? And it all gets so confusing.
Mm-hmm. And that's where it's a bud tender's job to have the knowledge to explain to you and just walk you through it. And some of it's trial and error. Like you buy your first bottle of CBD oil, it's probably going to be, that bottle is going to be you finding your milligram, if not half the bottle. If you find your milligram right off the gate, awesome. But if not, that bottle might be your up and down. I've talked to lots of different people, like I mentioned, what kind of job they do, but he's talking about using CBD, and he told me, he said, man, I love that stuff, but he said it takes about 3 days, and I said that's when I can really feel. He said it just kind of needs to build up in my body a little bit. And I was like, yeah, I mean, people give things a shot for a week and they put it down and go, this doesn't do anything. It's like, you didn't give it a try. Like, everybody wants fast results, fast food, fast, fast abs.
We're a very impatient country here in the United States. We want everything and we want it all now. Just like a little fun question here, still has to do with the topic, but what do you use specifically strain wise for, the seizures or just with your condition in general?
Yeah.
I've got a good idea. We've talked on another episode about what Jake uses and what helps with him. And we're going to put that out. What helps you, do you find?
So when you're looking at seizures and CBD, you're looking at high milligrams of CBD. You're looking at 200, 300 milligrams a day, possibly more, depending on the situation. There's, Charlotte Figge, Charlotte's Web. She had, lots of seizures. That's. I mean, she's passed away now. Rest in peace.
Unfortunately, yeah.
But her story was the reason why I even considered it, like, fully.
I believe same with my mom. That's her. It was her story that got her to be like, okay, well,
and it's like we have, almost the same condition. They call it the same thing on the surface level, but we have different types of seizures or whatever. And it's like, what? It's like, if it's been helping her, like, why not? But high milligrams of CBD. I take high milligrams of CBG, 50 to 100 milligrams for pain. I take about 30 milligrams of CBDV a day. That's the one that I highly recommend for people with epilepsy.
Awesome. And you keep mentioning the CBDV, which is cool because I've never heard of it until today when you said something.
Yeah, it's another minor cannabinoid that I think talked about earlier, that there's lots of studies out there on it, and I've read them, because it's like, is this the cannabinoid that's gonna help me the best? It's like, I'm gonna learn about it. So far so good. I make an oil with it, an avocado oil and linalool terpenes, just to give, just to keep everything calm. But there's a woman in town that she buys, 2 bottles at a time for her son that's, has seizures and he's on the spectrum. And
oof, that's rough.
But they told me that they were able to start using generic medicine. So they're saving a lot of money because CBDV has been stopping the seizures. So
wow.
Yeah.
Now, is that one of the things that you can pick up at like one of the local shops here?
Yeah, right in town there, Canal Harvest Moon, the herb shop carries it.
So everyone watching, we're located in like the Canal Winchester area of Columbus, Ohio, which is kind of like a suburb of Columbus. Yeah. But a lot of Taylor's products that I got and didn't even know it was him that made it. I got from. Can I mention the place? Should I?
Yeah, the Garden
I was
Herb
going to say the Garden Herb Shop there in Canal Winchester,
right there in town. They got all kinds of vitamin supplements. If you come in at the right time, you'll run into me. I'm always in there eating, hanging out, and. When somebody walks in and they have a CBD question or cannabis in general, whoever's working, they'll come and get me and I'll talk to you. You're not bothering me. You're not interrupting my meal. Like, I'll help you out. What, my meal can wait. It's fine.
Yeah. And that's awesome that you're so eager to help people out too.
Yeah. It's, I'll help you out, give you the breakdown, this, and this, explain, a lot of what I said today. It's kind of like, when I'm selling at booths and, not fairs, whatever they're called, but festivals and stuff, whatever. It's just like some people are very new and I give them that quick education, endocannabinoid system and, this, and all right, I'll take this then. Cool. It's like, here's my card. You know, when you need more, I'll ship it to you. Right. So free shipping over $70. So can't beat it.
No,
I'll beat your dispensary price.
Yeah, you will, because I've seen your prices and I'm pretty impressed.
Yeah, I'll beat it. No, I know people that'll beat mine, but it's all good.
Now, I don't know, Jake, do you have any more specific questions for Taylor?
I don't.
You don't? Okay, I just had one more, and it's not even really a question. If you could just leave a statement for people. I know a lot of people are very anti medical marijuana, weed in general. If there's anything for the people watching who may be watching this and they're just completely against marijuana in general, is there anything you could leave them with to maybe ease their minds about marijuana at all?
No one's ever overdosed from cannabis. I mean,
mic drop.
It's my medicine. It's I don't judge you the medicine that you take. I'm not going to judge you on, your diet, and the crap that you eat, unless you come to me and want to talk to me or have a lifestyle change of some sort, because I've had to do it, but yeah, if you're worried about the smell of it, what you're smelling is bush with terpenes on it. Some people wrap it in tobacco leaves. That's what probably bothers most people, but at the end of the day, you should not, inhale and go, oh, someone's smoking pot. Just inhale and say, someone's relaxing. Because, I've even had some of my buddies are police officers, we talk to them every day. And we've talked about how, they pull up to scenes and they smell alcohol. They know it's going to be a fight. When they pull up to a scene, they smell weed. They know it's a cool conversation.
Everyone's going to be fine.
The fact that they, know that and they acknowledge that, and it's just a pattern that keeps happening. Just tell you everything.
Yep.
Right. I could pick Taylor's brain all day, but that's on some of those topics could go down a rabbit hole that we don't even have time to cover all in one, about like the pineal gland and all that different stuff. So
it's very deep. Very, very deep.
But you're a very busy guy. You're running a company by yourself, TrueBondHemp. And I just wanted to thank you so much for even taking the time today to come on this podcast.
Thank you guys for having me.
And be our first interview.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I can't wait to put this out and advertise it and let people see what you've got to say, because I think that you are a mind that is full of vast knowledge that some people need to hear.
Yeah.
Including myself, someone who's been researching this.
Yeah, I'm ready to, I have a few people that I work with, and I'm ready to, start making products that work and not rip people off, and just kind of try and take over the game, but easier said than done. So,
yeah, and I just wanted to personally thank you as well for helping out people like my friend Jake here, and educating him, educating me, educating people like my mother.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Jake's
definitely, and definitely my mother.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, why learn it all and keep it to myself?
Right.
So, I've done a couple interview type things or whatever, but nothing released. So
well, this is definitely getting released.
Yeah.
As soon as I can.
Yeah. So
all right, guys. Well, this has been the Jake and Blake podcast with Taylor from TrueBondHemp. If you're in Ohio and you use this product that we're talking about, go ahead and look him up, because his products are amazing. Jake can testify to that because he uses nothing but Taylor's product, correct?
Yeah.
So
yeah, and if I can't make it, then I search for somebody that makes the best, and I carry it. So
exactly. That's
yeah,
awesome,
yeah.
man.
TrueBondHemp.com. Follow me on Instagram at TrueBondHemp.
Sweet. Well, hey, Taylor, I thank you for your time and for your knowledge and for coming out today.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, guys. This has been an episode of the Redeemed Jake and Blake podcast. We'll catch you later.